And I moved out of the country for a little bit. Yeah, I
Oh,
moved in. I was living in Australia for a year, and then I also lived in Vancouver, Canada for a year.
hey, that's awesome. So your time in Australia, what part?
I was initially just outside of Sydney on the Central Coast, and then I moved a little bit further north up into just south of Byron Bay. And I also lived in Sydney for a little bit as well. So I kind of separated it into 4 months each part. It was really inspiring. Beautiful country. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. I have the wander list, right, of
Mhm.
wanting to go everywhere, and that's one of those places though that is very high up on a very, very long bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't made
I,
it out. I have a friend who lived in Perth for years, and
yeah.
yeah, just
I didn't even make it over there. I actually stayed in a very small portion of a very large country, but my goal was also to really experience the culture and the people, and settle in. So I wanted to feel what it was like to actually settle into the culture to a greater degree than just traveling around. And that was a really inspiring experience because everyone's like, why didn't you just travel the whole time? And I was like, because I wanted the people and the culture and the experience. So I got that. So I
I
have more to visit.
Dude, that's what I do when
Um,
I travel. Like I understand the value of the monuments and the history stuff and all that jazz.
yeah.
Like I get it. And if it happens because I'm with people, then
Mm.
cool. And I'll appreciate the fact that I'm with people doing that. I lived 2 years in Uruguay.
Yeah.
And it's life changing, unless you've been through something like that. It's just an indescribable reality. But yeah, depth appreciates depth, right? So
That's really cool. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So we could turn this whole episode into just that dialogue. For those of the listening in though, because you got all this depth, and we're gonna be talking about transforming your life with purpose, and we're talking about destiny, forward a nation. Really figuring out how to maximize. I'm gonna say how to maximize this life. Um, what are 3 resources that you recommend to other visionary leaders out there?
Well, resources is definitely one that's huge as personal development, right? So we want to continue to grow ourselves to understand who we are, why we're here, how that basically is formulating what we want to lead in, right? It was interesting. I was just going through a session with my mentor coach yesterday, and I also suggest having mentors and coaches as well to help you. But I was going through one yesterday, and we were working through a particular old trauma, but while working through it, we uncovered a really inspiring moment that I had when I was a kid, and I was about 9 or 10 years old. But in that very moment is part of what gave me the vision of how I wanted to create an impact in the world. Right. And it's quite interesting because it's just this one fraction of a moment. And as soon as we hit it and I saw it, I burst into tears. Right. And funny enough, it's like we're doing all this while we're working through a trauma, right? We're seeing how something served me and the experience I got to go through as a result. And that was the moment. And that's what I got. So when I say personal development, I really mean it. It's quite important because that actually connected me deeper to the why and the purpose that I have in my life and the impact that I'm making, which means I can create a more structured format around my goals and create more efficient and effective goals that are achievable, right? So it's all very helpful. So that's one resource that I really, really love. Other resources is education. Education and consistent learning is really important for me. And in a world where our environment is changing on a regular basis, there's consistently new information coming out. One of the important things is to understand there's so much that we know, but there's also so much that we don't know. And if we're not humble enough to realize that, we're going to stay stuck in our ways. We're not going to be able to expand on the information. I love
Yes.
how kind of Stephen Hawking's put it together. I was reading, can't remember what book it was. Sorry, not sorry. I read too many, but it was an amazing book. And it was talking about how he taught and how there was a time when he actually came into his class and he said, we're going to wipe the slate clean, right? We're going to wipe the slate clean because I realized that everything that I was saying like was wrong about how this works. So here's what I figured out now. And the students just come in and they listen. They're inspired by knowing the unknown. And one of his theories was to like, how can I prove myself wrong? And it's funny because even before I read that, I started to implement that in the systems and the structures that I use today. I have really tried to prove a lot of it wrong. And the reason why I do that before I teach people and implement it is because if there is a gap, I want to know about it. I want to know about it first. I want to understand it. And then I want to educate myself to a greater degree to fill those gaps. So this is like a really important part of our own leadership, is that education component. And then another resource is your life, like overall, like all of us in leadership, like I love business, don't get me wrong. Like I love business so much, and you'll probably see me working more often than not, but I also really value, and I have other things in life that are purposeful to me. So I really love my physical fitness. I really love my family. I really love art, architecture. So it's making sure to create that work-life balance, right? Where we have something that really inspires us outside that also fuels us in a different way. Because I also find I get some amazing insights. Like I remember I went to Paris in April. It was like, when was it? April. Yeah, this year. It seems like time flies sometimes. There's so much going on. So I went in April this year, and I knew that when I went, it was for my business, even though I was walking around and looking at museums. And the insights that I got by understanding the artists, understanding their processes, really helped me flourish in my own business. So it opened up insights that I never would have had I just thought, oh, to work on my business, I have to do it in this one way. Now, to work on our businesses and our leadership, we want to be the multifaceted individuals that we are. It doesn't mean you have to go to a museum, but what's that form for you? What's important to you? So it's really finding out who you are, what's important to you, and incorporating that into your life, because that balance will help you thrive and come up with new inspiring ideas as a leader. So those are the three.
I love it. Those are I mean, it's funny. Some people would say that wait a second, she just talked about generalizations, or broad, but what I hear translated in that is you've given me the depth of the well of the library and said, Jackson, go do you, with these concepts, go see what is that, how does this apply to your life, how are you leveraging life itself. And you talked about, again, you dove right into what a lot of people would want to avoid: physical fitness. um, and then you talked about family, and then the art, the thing that a lot of people pleasers would put aside and say, you know what, I can't make time for this because I have to be there for everybody else. So I love the depth of what you just dove into. Personal development, that's a system of layers. Some of us were blessed to start life off, like with personal development in our hand. I think I had that silver spoon in my mouth. I remember my sisters teaching me to write an M. And, I wrote a W. And I remember my sister taking that chalkboard or that whiteboard and going, and she flipped it upside down and she's like, yeah, you did it. I remember knowing I didn't do it, but being so grateful that I had somebody to celebrate with me, that I'm getting there. I'm going to figure it out. And again, a lot of people don't have that. They don't have Boy Scouts. It was a structured program. They don't have public school, or private school. They don't have Montessori schools. There's so many things, but if we're in the here and now, right, we can make moves today to try to move our life towards the opportunities that exist. And, thank you for everything you just threw down. The consistency of learning in a world where, every day massive changes are taking place, and to be centered and not scared of that, right? To realize that it's something you can embrace. That's beautiful. Have you always been able to embrace that open-ended um, process of learning, or was there ever a time where it scared the heck out of you, where you feared it?
I think that we're going to fluctuate, right? So there's going to be some things where it's really easy for us to dive in and learn, and other times we're going to be challenged by it, and we're going to fluctuate back and forth. And this is really interesting where it comes into our own human behavior, personal development. When we have a significant quantity of pride around certain things, we will actually reject other information that comes in, because if we're wrong, then we lose what we're proud of, that component of being right. It was interesting. I was just at a workshop, and it was funny. We were listening to a very famous individual who I'm not going to share, but they were doing a live presentation, and I was connecting with a friend from that event afterwards. And I said, "What did you think?" And he said, "Well, it's really cool information." He goes, "But I saw some gaps just based on some things that I know." Right. And I was like, "Funny, I saw some gaps as well based on some things I know, right? And he said it, and I think like people, this is what I do for a living, so I notice this on a regular basis, but
Yeah.
people think other people don't notice. What he said was that what I can tell with this individual is that he doesn't want to let go of being right, right? Like he has a lot of pride, and you can tell that that's going to impact this product, this service, this kind of health technology that he's trying to create, because you can tell he's not willing to take in other people's opinions, right? And you could actually see him on stage getting angry. Like you could hear the anger come up in his voice around individuals who question him and question him as an authority, which, by the way, there were some things that he has done amazing jobs on, and some things I have some friends who are scientists who I'm like, this isn't like literally what you said is not accurate. Like between what I've learned and what like you just look it up. It's super simple science, some of this. So it's really quite interesting. And that's why like we want to keep studying and educating, and it's not about being right, right? Because if you really, it's not about you. This is where it comes away from, it's not about us. This information that I have, it's actually not about me. It serves me, and I'm grateful that it serves me, and I'm grateful for the results that I've gotten as a product of knowing this and being able to implement it. But the truth is me being on this podcast, me having this information and sharing it is about people. You know, it's about how can I help people? How can I help them get to the other side? And if something shifts and changes in my knowledge, even slightly, it's like, how can I make sure to share that shift and change? Because it's about them. And then when it becomes about someone else, it's like, well, why would I stop learning? Right? Why would I stop? Why? It's totally okay to be wrong, because if I'm right, I'm going to give someone information that might, be judgmental along the way. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's be wrong. Let's be right sometimes, and let's share what we have along the journey. And I think what's cool is if we look at individuals that inspire us, you don't you're not ever inspired by the person who's telling you the same exact thing for 50 years. You actually get bored by them. You're inspired by the leader who you've watched develop over time, who you saw in the very beginning, and you're like, man, their information and how they could speak was right. So it was like boring and crappy, and now they're amazing. And it's like, and everything that they've done since then, you could see how much they've expanded. That's what you're inspired by. So it's giving yourself permission to be that individual as well, where you're moving and flowing and growing. And yeah, we get to share that and impact people's lives, which is inspiring. And then when you show up and you're like, yeah, I totally was wrong about that, like then other people get to do it too, and it's like, okay, it's like not that big, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal.
You're highlighting the reality that all of us are angels in each other's lives. Right. That's the term I would use for it. It's LeBron James. I pointed up to him because you're talking about that progress. Is he the purest source of hope and inspiration in the entire planet? Probably not. He's another human being. But did me watching him handle, his the world attack him when he moved to Miami just to play basketball with his best friend. I was watching that and I was inspired by how I saw him bounce back from that epic PR fail. People would say it was no, and so I love what you're talking about. Whether it's our family members, our friends, a celebrity, a mentor. You also highlighted this person with their health technology. And what it reminds me of is the story of Ramanujan, which is one of my favorite
Mhm.
movies. And this mathematician in India ends up going to, I don't know, Oxford, somewhere important for college and university. And he's, they've got this massive bias against him because of his race and because of his upbringing. But he just has this wisdom that he claims comes from God about how to do these math formulas. All of us in the world as leaders, we are all mathematicians with our own chalkboards. Some people love to hide their chalkboards and keep it private. Other people are happy to give their chalkboards to everybody to look at. And if we're looking for perfection in a mathematician, good luck. You're probably going to be disappointed in this life. And at the same time, if we can evaluate and say, wow, Carly's got some amazing math problems over there, and maybe I can use those to improve my math problems. And mine are here. If anybody wants to use them, awesome. I think a lot of leaders end up falling victim of imposter syndrome when they worry not only about being right, but when they get proven wrong, and then they feel like they're not valuable enough to continue. When in reality, whoever was on that stage, if if they're the person who also has to do all the research and has to be the one who does everything right and has to be the one that crosses every T, dots every I, makes everybody happy, they're never going to have the capacity to build a team
Mhm.
and to scale appropriately. Part of being president of any country or any organization is just being able to be the spokesperson that gets the general public informed enough so that people stay at peace with what's going on. But we as people, we have to be smart enough too to realize, you know what, our leaders aren't going to be perfect. So how do we show up and support and engage or challenge when necessary in order to move forward? And I wish more people, I hope more people continue to study that process out. How can we support imperfect leaders while also realizing that our own leadership can turn the tides and make impact that can be necessary for everybody? So, um, yeah, you're doing that with me. We're just putting our formulas on the chalkboard for everybody. And if you guys have anything to contribute in the comments about transforming your life, about purpose, about what it means to follow your destiny or forward a nation, all that, by all means, feel free to chime in. We're not the controllers as much as we are just mathematicians, like all of you, trying to figure out the whole thing. And Carly, I love that you bring so much joy and positive energy to the process. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll dive into the vision at large, and we'll see everybody on the other side. All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Calame. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Calame, founder and CEO of First Class Business. And I am truly excited to have Carly Pepin on stage with me today. I feel like I'm talking to one of my long-term idols. I'm talking about people like Ralph Waldo Emerson, David Thoreau, Mark Twain. Let's get Mother Teresa in there as well. It just somebody that has an incredible depth of wisdom based on experiences. And so we're going to try to cover everything that we can in it, eat up what you can out of this. Real quick, I'm going to go through some additional resources because, again, in honor of Carly honors our system. We're like, no, let's just get people as many resources as possible and allow people to pick up what matters most to them. So starting with Dave Morrow with the Hard to Kill .org program and podcast. I highly recommend checking out his podcast. He specifically helps military veterans with the process of getting back in shape. Veterans sometimes lose sight of their own identity as they get re-involved in the world. And there's a lot to work on. What Dave's helping them do is 100,000 veterans. He's helping them lose 2 million pounds collectively. It's pretty much 20 pounds each so they can look good, feel good about their physique, and then go on and do good. I've loved working with him. He's been a fantastic leader, and we've been building out those communities steadily over the last couple of weeks. And I'm actually getting in shape. I went from barely being able to do one push-up it must have been about a month ago now. And I'm I can't even express how embarrassing that is as a 36-year-old. But now I'm doing 100 push-ups a day. And it feels good to have my back strengthened again after my long PTSD with my back surgery. So go check that out. We'd love to see you join us, civilian or military personnel. And then there's the Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos. Opportunities, as it is in English, our Latino version of opportunities is going really well. We got Vicky and Diana today helping on the displays. What we're doing is we're bridging the economic gap between South America, North America, and the rest of world too. We want to get job training into the hands of the people who need it most. So we do this free program to help them learn how to become digital ambassadors. And as they go through that process of learning the disciplines of consistency and reliability, and they learn how to interview for jobs, and they learn how to showcase the value that they're able to put out into the world, then we get them placed with people who want to hire VAs. What we don't allow is virtual abuse. That's how I see most virtual assistants being treated. And we won't allow companies to come in and work with our people unless our people want to go and work with an entity that doesn't have the proper standards in place to take care of their people. But please take that to heart and think, the people I hire on Fiverr and Upwork, the people I hire through some other system, do I actually care about them? Do I know what their birthdays are? Do I know what they want to accomplish in life? Am I helping them get to where they want to go? If that's what you're doing, then you'll love the people that we're helping through this program. And I just do my best to get out of the way and allow them to run their podcast and show and do that. We just launched opportunities, by the way, for India, and we also launched opportunities for the Philippines. And Ange and Harry, respectively, lead those two organizations. So help us out by participating in it and seeing if you can find your next virtual assistant through those individuals. They'll lead you, not me. Then there's the water project. The water project is not something we're affiliated with, but it is something that when I learned about it, it just hit home. I've never been thirsty in my life. I've always had access to water. So when I did finally open my eyes and realize there's millions of people who don't even have access to clean water, I just didn't want to forget about it. And so now I talk about it every single time we're on this podcast. These kids and these family members, we have an opportunity to make a generational impact by helping them build a borehole well or a sand dam. And what's really cool is the water project, if you commit even $5 to a project, they send you the proof, the evidence of that coming to fruition for that community. And I hope you take a walk meditating on that reality. What did you just grant that community participating in a small way? And if you don't have $5 right now, if COVID economics has you crushed, and like, no, I can't give anything, that's okay. My hope is that you'll think of somebody that you could share this message with, even if it was just a one-on-one talking about it, or you decide to the social media realm of putting it out there. You never know how far the ripple effect will go of the good that you do, even if it's just talking about something that could use our help. If you have a charity, a cause, something that's happening in your life that you want us to talk about, don't hesitate to drop that in the comments. I will take a look. Our team will take a look at that and see what we can do. Maybe we'll even feature it here on Vision Pros Live. So without further ado, we're going to bring her back on stage. We'll maximize our time together. Carly, thank you so much for joining me on Vision Pros Live.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I enjoyed going through your website and the depths of your testimonials. It reminds me of another leader that I don't know. I've never met her. Actually, I heard her speak maybe for a grand total of 4 minutes. But have you ever heard of Ingrid Arna?
Yes. And I know because a friend, she's Australian, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. My friend used to actually work very closely with her. So I never actually looked at anything that she did. I sort of got to hear some back end stuff, which
Yeah.
private.
Well, you're
Yeah.
both leaders that have
Yeah.
been doing things for a long time. And so I have no idea if the recipes, were exchanged directly or if there was just a roundabout.
Mhm.
Oh, there's definitely a connection because you have a client love page. And she's got a client love page. And you guys do such a great job of showcasing the individuals that you're helping, and you can see the depth of the relationships that are created. Her client love page is the one that I'm like most like, oh, someday I want to be like Ingrid and have helped this many people in this transformative of a manner where it's just clear as day that that I know for myself that I'm doing what matters to the people that I'm serving. It is just amazing to see how well she's put that together, and you've done the same. So um, I want to ask you what the vision is for those that you serve, but I'd like to tie that as well to who is it that you serve?
Yeah, so I love working with individuals who actually want to make an impact, right? So this is really important to me because when I'm working with someone, we're not just working on a personal development mentorship level, we're also working on their business, right? So usually the business is about bringing in about $2 million and up, okay? And when we work together on the business, we're going to do some very strategic stuff around scaling and like getting your people in line, getting the strategy and all of that executed, making sure your people are happy. So we also want to like build the culture, right? This is part of your leadership, understanding your vision within the company, getting everyone on board. We put that all into the strategy along with your long-term goals. We want to move beyond what your goals are for a year, 2 years, 3 years. We want to get them into 10, 25. I love working with people who love love to leave a legacy behind as well. So that's a question that I challenge the individuals that I'm asking is like, well, what do you want to leave behind? Is that something that's going to be something in your business? Is it something that's going to be personal? And how do we all incorporate this to make sure that this is doing what it's meant to do? And then also we focus on the execution component as well, and cash, because cash flow really truly is king. So revenue, profit is amazing, but if you have no cash flow, it's just worthless. Like you'll just keep building debt and the valuation of your company goes down. So that's something we focus on as well. So while we're working on that, the reason why it's so important to work with individuals who want to make that impact is because it really makes a big difference on how we're actually approaching these strategies. Individuals who want to make a difference in the world, help people through their product and services, those are the ones that inspire me the most. They're people who have often gone through something during childhood. You know, I have a client, he's so inspiring, brings me tears of inspiration, where when we figured out why he does what he does, it was because the challenges that he watched his father go through as an entrepreneur. They lost their house, they lost their finances, the family got torn apart. And now they're literally helping entrepreneurs, like they're helping individuals become entrepreneurs in a stable environment, because it's underneath the umbrella of a company, but you will make as much as you basically want depending on the work that you want to put in, because the commission structure that they put together is what is going to help them create an income. So you're an entrepreneur within a company, so you have the stable income, and if you want to become wealthy, it's your choice. Right. And it's really cool because now he's sort of prevented that dynamic of, if you fail as an entrepreneur, you still have that stable income. And as long as you're doing a good job, you get to keep your job. If you want to make more money, you have the opportunity to do it without taking that risk. And that was all because of the challenges he went through in his past. And he's built a really beautiful company around this. That inspires me. Things like that genuinely inspire me. And sometimes it's a little bit different. Like I have a client who their legacy is they do want their employees to be taken care of, you know, when they pass, and that's something that they think of. But also it's to build the company to pass on to their kids. They have multiple kids, and so each one of them and they have 7 companies, so each one has a different dynamic of which company they would love to take over. So they're stabilizing and building that company to help. And it's like, I'm not fussed about what kind of impact you want to make. Like, I really am not. I think it's inspiring when you want to be of service and assist people, and I want to help those people. So on the back end with the one-on-one stuff, we do help with the leadership dynamic. We dive in to help you be the leader that you would love to be. And oftentimes we're working on a lot of the stressors that come in a business, because reality is business is actually quite enjoyable, and people lose touch with what they loved about the business as they grow and scale it. So I really want to bring that energy back, that inspiration, that fulfillment. So that comes back into your day to day. That's a really important dynamic. And then the other dynamic is also just working on stuff that is happening in day to day life. You know, like life happens. So sometimes I'm working with these leaders, these business owners on their personal relationships. You know, they might be going through a divorce, they might be having familiar troubles, right? They might be having health issues, and all of that is going to impact like how you show up every day. So we also want to work on those components too, because as we kind of started out in the beginning, it's remembering you're a whole person, and we work from the top down in a company, and you're the top in a company. So that's why I like to work from the top down, because if you're feeling more inspired, it's easier to build that culture where you have people who are feeling more inspired. And what's cool about that is you're building a team that comes together. And I've seen this too with the individuals that I've worked with, where one individual was going through divorce, and they have built such an inspiring culture that when it finally came out, their team actually came together within the company and really stepped up to ensure that the company and he was taken care of, because you know he kind of was a bit distant like for a little while, you know, and that's cool to see. So giving yourself that opportunity, remember it comes from the top down, to build something inspiring, like a place where people want to go. They talk about it, you know. Yeah.
I do. In
Mhm.
fact, I now know what it feels like to interview me.
Ah.
I know why the hosts go, whoa. There's so many paths. Their passion is so clear. You know,
Mhm.
and again, I'm excited because I gotta ask, how much research did you do? Any research at all on First Class Business and Vision Pros Live before you came on the show, or not? I did none on you. I got this to your
Yeah,
stuff today.
a little bit. the tiniest bit, because I'll check and I'll see what you're up to, and then I look at all your podcast things, and I'm like, yeah, we talk about like similar stuff, and then that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're
Same.
efficient.
Yeah.
We both get that. And to go to the appointments here, I mean, I knew that you had met with, I believe it was Harry. Now it won't load, darn it. I
Yeah.
think you met with Harry, maybe with Javanka as well. Is that correct? No,
I'm so bad. I actually am on like 2 podcasts a week. This is where I'm like, I have such a
literally
hard time
not loading
remembering because I
for
think I
me.
met with them months ago.
Yeah, it has been at one. Yeah. Okay. No,
Okay.
no. You met with Harry twice. Okay. So
Okay, here's one. Okay, good.
when I know that people come from sources that I trust, right? It's like I show up ready to play. It's like the whole part of the process. Like, okay, well, you wouldn't be on the stage if you
Yeah.
hadn't already had that. And if I can, have been awesome. But so I dove in. I saw that we had some like email things going on, but I know I'm getting a little bit off track. But here's why this is so important to me. I want to know where the competitors are in the world that do what we do the way that we do it, because there are plenty of
Mm,
people who want to work with somebody like me, but they don't want to work with me, and that's
mm.
okay. I don't like to send people though into the wilderness and say, oh yeah, no, we don't do that. That's not gonna work for us. Good luck finding it. So when
Yeah.
I find somebody and I'm like, whoa, because we build based on vision, establishing the culture, getting leaders, right? Attracting leaders. And then we've got things we can market, but that's only if the experts at hand are great at operations and fulfillment. And if those things are taken care of, then yes, we can scale sales and support. So we speak the same language with a little bit different twist. We've got the same formulas, and I'm excited because I'm like, well, cool. Now I can start sending people who are like, I'm just not feeling the fit here vibe, and or
Yeah.
they're just maybe we want them to get guidance, but I just know they're gonna not be the same flavor. They're not gonna like my flavor. I can say,
Yeah.
well, have you ever checked out what Carly Pepin's doing? On her team, and give them that freedom to be able to truly select and choose where they want to go, who they want to work with. And so this is really exciting. I wasn't anticipating any of that. When I said the whole Ralph Waldo Emerson, all that was based on our initial conversation where I was like, listen to this woman go. Holy crap, look at the depth of what's been discovered in your life. Like it's just super easy to see how much you've dedicated towards serving everyone, and it's served me very well today. So allow this. I know I'm gushing a little bit, but I'm
No,
grateful.
I kind of want to go off on that point a
Please,
little bit because
let's
I
do it.
think people genuinely have a real hard time with competition.
Yeah, they
And
do.
they do, and I think this brings up a really valid, beautiful point. There are 8 billion people plus on this planet, and I only have so much time, and you only have so much time. And I just had a sales call with someone, and she was going to talk to 3 other individuals. It winds up we are going to work together, but again, it's like I'm on the call, and I'm not upset about it. And I said, it's like, well, what do you think? It's like, I think go with the person who you're most inspired to connect with, because it's a long-term relationship. Like when you're working on your business, when you're working on your life, it's a very long-term relationship. It's a long-term dynamic. So if you hire someone who has just the qualifications that you like, but you don't like spending time with them, it's not going to work. Get the qualifications and the person you like, because this is genuinely a relationship. And this is where it's like you said, it's like it's inspiring. You build part of your toolbox isn't just like what you can do. Part of your toolbox is the people where it's like all of a sudden you think about it and you're like, yeah, I actually really like you, but I get it. I see that we don't vibe out. And here's a person that you might resonate with more. I have a couple people, go check in with them, see who you like the most. So I think that's a really cool thing for people to remember. And it's like, even when we want to get market share, if you're a bigger company and you want to create a market share and you want to have some level of domination, right? You'll never have full domination. Like we even have laws in our country that you're not allowed to have full domination over a
It's not
market
good for
ever.
the
It's just,
ecosystem.
yeah, it's not going to happen anyways. And there's all these competitors out there, but it's cool because even that competition is a beautiful opportunity because that is making you innovate. It's making you understand your consumers to a greater degree. This is what I love about competition too. This is the other side. If we're not going to collaborate, then how also are you going to utilize this? How do you understand your customers? If someone else is stealing them away, then you're not providing them with something. And what is that something? And how do you find that out? How do you ask the questions? How do you understand them? How do you create something, if you can, to target that? And if you can't, then it's time to move on and innovate in your own way. And so
Yeah.
I love that you brought this up in the sense of it's like collaboration, competition, and it's finding the balance in between these two. 8
Yeah.
billion people on this planet, like, you figure it out. There's, yeah,
Exactly.
a lot of
When
opportunity.
when Darren Hardy came out with the Compound Effect, and
Well,
I
so
saw
good. I
that
love
Tony
that book.
Robbins. What's that?
I love that book. It was so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
well, I noticed. I took in a homeless guy, and he found the book as I was teaching him to like kind of get his feet underneath himself. And I was like, okay, I'll buy you the book. You read a chapter per day as part of the things that we're doing together, and you can recap the book to me. So I got to learn it through him. And but as I looked at the forward, and it was done by Tony Robbins, I was still in a phase where I was still moving away from the concept of competition and towards the concept of strategic partnership. And I was like, whoa, these guys, they kind of like, they do the same thing. I was like, but oh, wow, they're sharing each other's audiences. Like, this makes so much sense that to join forces in ways like this. This is cool. I'm glad to see that. And two, churches often fight, against each other or non-church domination, or what is that called? Non-secular entities and secular entities, they tend to fight. And yet when there's a disaster that happens, a lot of times everybody involved is able to kind of hold hands and come together. And in reality, most of the leaders of such organizations do work together. I was part of the I'm part of Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints. But we had a program called VOAD, Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster. And we met at the city emergency center on one of the military bases in San Antonio. And it was one representative from each organization that's a little less controversial or, RAR, it's our space, not yours. No, we were all very much ambassadors working together to figure out, all right, how do we make sure we are prepared when the disasters hit? And how do we bring our
Mm.
communities together and unite? And I've seen that at the best of the best levels of growth. Most of the leaders have that mindset and the mentality to work together. I'm going to share one fast resource for everybody listening. And again, we're going to blow the mind of people with resources today. This is our competitor and influencer chart. And Carly, we're going to be adding you to it as well. Like I get to think about, we got to make sure we're tracking what Carly's up to. What can we learn? What formulas are there? And this is our digital competitors list and our traditional competitors list. And we certainly have hundreds, if not thousands more that potentially are warrant being on this list. But what these also are is, we call them competitors and influencers. These are the potential strategic partners when entities come to us and say, hey, we really want y'all to take this on, and our budget is 500,000. And I go, I don't do $500,000 budgets. Like, I don't have that capacity, but if you want me to, I can call around and see who can. And then strategic alliances, mergers and acquisitions occur, things like that, because we're not scared of it. We embrace it. There's an awesome opportunity to do that. As you mentioned, for the 8 billion, there's too many people who need help to waste time with the arguing. So we're running out of time, and we've got so many awesome questions to dive into. The good thing is your topic, the topic that we've combined on transforming your life with purpose. Everything we've talked about emulates just that, right? Constant change and appreciation for moving towards doing things to live with others and for others. So, do you want to dive into your vision, your personal vision,
Mm.
or should we move to the worst leadership experience you've ever had? It's your call.
Um, maybe the leadership one, because at least I can get a lesson out of that. Like, I feel like I could teach something in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. And then
Okay, cool.
Carly, I'd love to have you
Yeah.
back. So there's plenty of
Yeah, that'd be
opportunity for us to
inspiring.
rock the mic again and just expand on what you've given if you want to. So let's
Yeah.
dive in. What is the worst leadership experience you've ever had?
So this is really fun because I feel like the worst one also turned out to be one of the best ones after just understanding like the different dynamics where I had this company that I worked for at one point and the owner he had he would just walk around the office and scream and yell all the time, like all the time. And it was quite interesting because I worked there for, I think it was a year and a half, and what about 6 months in, I found out that every time someone got hired, they had a tally, and they would bet on how long they would last, right? They only bet that I would last for a week, right? You gotta have thick skin, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "You guys," right? But genuinely, that's how much in and outflow was because of the chaotic dynamic of that environment, and it was really interesting because the challenge of it is, you don't stay in a company like that forever just because it's like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with this every day," right?
Mm.
You don't want to deal with it.
I feel
But
bad
what
for
he
those who do. A lot of people do.
Some people stay, some people stay. What he did teach me though is he had some things that I thought were unrealistic expectations. Part of his yelling and screaming and stuff was his lack of understanding of how to get, and this is where I learned later, he couldn't get us all on board for his joint vision because he didn't know how to express the vision he had for the company. He didn't know how to have the core values laid out. He didn't know how to set boundaries within those core values. He didn't know how to share that with us. So he couldn't bring the culture together. So what we were hearing was a large quantity of frustration when things were falling to the wayside. There were some things that now what I understand being an entrepreneur, we're just stretch goals, right? We're talking
Mhm.
things that were like
That's
big, hairy, audacious goals, stretch
right.
goals, like things that we're going to figure out how to do faster than the norm. He understood that it was possible. And he's kind of like Henry Ford in that way, like, you can
Yes.
do this, but he didn't know how to express and bring together the
Yeah, train
culture and
people on
enhance
that.
this and train people on that. So we're hearing all this chaos, right? This is why it was the worst and best at the same time, right? Because now that I know everything, I'm like, man, now I know what he can do. And what was funny is because he was so chaotic, it was like, well, let's just do it and try to get it done no matter what. And we wound up doing things that we never thought were possible in time frames that we didn't think were feasible as a result of him doing that. So it really brought out a part of me to understand like what was possible in business. And then later, as I started to learn all these dynamics when I'm becoming an entrepreneur myself, and then I started working with businesses, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was his gap. Culture was his gap. His
Yes.
vision, being able to share it, and culture. And so at the time, it felt like the worst, but now it feels like the best because you're like, oh, this is it. This is the gap. This is what you could do. And you see this company and this guy with a vision. And now I'm like, well, now I have empathy for him because I'm like, you could do
Yeah.
this. Like, I don't think you know. So hopefully one day he finds an individual or individuals that could
Right.
assist him with this. But it's just knowing like, I think it's
Let's dive
cool
into
when you,
that. Let's dive into that
yeah,
real hard. So, because
okay.
when I heard you say that, granted, I was 3 years old. I heard my
Uh-huh.
parents screaming at each other in the bedroom. Right. I ran through the master closet, jumped across the bed, pushed my parents apart, and said, "Stop yelling."
Yeah.
Right. And my dad is a petroleum engineer, roughneck to the max, not somebody you go face to face with. And at 3 years old, that's just who I am. Right.
Mhm.
That's just what I was willing to do. And so my tendency in the past would have been to take this guy and say, "Look, I know you're inadequate to deal with this situation. You don't have the tools. You don't have the capacity. This is not how you take care of people. I'm not putting up with this." I would have been the guy who didn't survive a week probably because I would have come toe to toe with him and said, "This is not happening anymore. This isn't healthy. It's hurting you. It's hurting everybody else." And he might have punched me and I would have said, "That didn't really hurt that much. Feel free to do it again, but we have to fix this." And he probably would have showed me the door. So how do you go about, because I've made changes since. I'm a little more diplomatic these days, but how do you go about helping people come to realize, take the blinders off
Yeah.
and realize that there's another way that can get the results they want without causing everybody else to
Yeah.
hate life?
Well, this is a funny thing. I did go head to head with him a lot. So
Okay.
he consistently, like, his main thing with him was he just kept saying how much of a smart ass I was. And I was like, whatever. um, so it wasn't that you couldn't go head to head with him, right?
Okay.
So when we work on these situations, this is where the one-on-one coaching for the leadership comes in,
Yeah.
because it's helping people to go to these particular instances and understand the true dynamic of what's going on. Like for me, in those moments where he gets very frustrated, sometimes there's an unrealistic expectation, but sometimes what he's missing out on, because he's so used to other people just not, like, he doesn't understand how to spot A players. I'm glad that they didn't though, because I would be stuck in a company forever if someone nurtured me genuinely.
Right.
Really glad people didn't, because I was
Mhm.
the person who stayed late when they didn't have to. I'm not getting paid overtime. You know, I'm on salary. I'm going above and beyond to make sure all these projects get finished. I would pull all-nighters for companies I worked for. Genuinely, like I would be up all night. And it's like, well, what were you doing? Oh, I slept on the couch. I just slept on the couch in like his office sometimes just to like get 2 hours of sleep. And then I'd show up and I'd get to work. Fortunately, it was a clothing place, so I could borrow some clothes. So, but that was
That's
my life,
great.
because it was like, this is the deadline. And I actually don't mind. It's part of why I'm a great entrepreneur. But it's like, if you can help them understand, like, this is what an A player looks like, this is what a B player, and this is what a C player looks like, right? Genuinely, these are the people that you're getting frustrated with, but nurture your A players. And quite frankly, he shouldn't be dealing with them anyways.
Oh,
He shouldn't be dealing
golly,
with
no.
these A players no
He's
matter
got
what.
years of
It's
things to
the
learn.
leader. Yeah, so he's not understanding how to delegate. So it's like, well, what is stressing you out? And it's like, the shipping team keeps doing this, and I have to keep talking to the packing guy. And it's like, this is a $30 million company. Why are you talking to the packing guy? Who is the person who's managing all of
Yes,
this,
where's your
right?
chief?
So first off, it's actually sometimes we don't even have to do a lot of personal development where you're shifting someone's personality. It's just you're getting these owners out of these situations where it's massively unrealistic. Like you can't manage 100 people
No,
on your own. You can't. That's why you have the leaders. And then
that's right.
teaching them how to identify the A players who want to lead, the ones who naturally want to step in. And then you're starting to manage those. And then we dive in on how to strategically manage those situations, how you track them, hold them accountable, right? You hold them accountable for their team, they hold their team accountable. And then all of a sudden, your day just went from managing chaos to doing what you love. A fashion designer who just gets to sit and focus on what he loves and pick out fabrics and design things
Yes,
and come up with his vision. Like, he's not going to be as cranky anymore. So,
yes,
part of it is like, let's just get your business together. Let's
right.
just sort out all the stuff on the back end, and then if there's still some stuff that's stressing you out, we'll do some personal development work. But a lot of it gets resolved by just working on the business. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, it's so awesome. It is so fun to hear you speak, because when you speak, I hear Dr. Peter Drucker of the Effective Executive, right? I hear Michael Gerber of the E-Myth. I
Mhm.
hear Chip Conley, of Peak coming out and talking. I hear Ken Blanchard, right? I hear Patrick Lencioni. I'm sure there's a lot of women entrepreneurs I need to pay more attention to as well, on this process. But those, I hear you sharing the exact same things that these leaders have done such a great job of. They've given us. We stand on the shoulders of giants, don't we? You know,
100%. Yeah.
it's so helpful. But you're carrying the torch forward in a beautiful way.
Mm.
I'm going to skip one. We're going to go into the most powerful lesson. So, if this was your last chance, Carly, to share a message with the world, what's the powerful lesson that other visionaries can learn from your experience?
Life is short. Life is so much shorter than you think, and every day that you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," is a day wasted. That's it. So stop. Just stop, because we don't know actually how long we're going to go for. We have goals and we have aspirations, but the truth is that's probably one of the most fragile and unknown parts of our lives. Is I don't know if I'll make it through today. That's actually the genuine truth. I actually don't know that. I can't say that with certainty. I don't know what's going to happen. So it's understanding how short life is, and you don't want to sit there on your deathbed and have all these regrets. Look at what you would love to do today, plan it, strategize, get help. Get help if you can't do it on your own. Most of us can't. It's actually highly unrealistic, which is totally fine. The day that I realized I'm not going to do everything on my own was the day that I really built team, mentors, friends, collaborations that have assisted me to get to where I am today. Yeah, so get it done. Life is short.
Get her done. We'll
Get it done.
go made her too. Oh, that was beautiful and eloquent. I'm going to repeat it. Life is so much shorter than you think. So every day that you say, I'll do it tomorrow, is another day wasted. That is a very powerful, and I love you. You wanted to combine that with the power of the positivity, which is let's go. Let's just make it happen. Let's not dwell on that, but let's be aware of that so that we can move into greatness. And yeah, I can't wait to have that quote in our Hall of Fame of quotes that I envision someday having. So, well, this has been an absolute pleasure and joy. We're actually going to skip the process of like showing the brand. You guys all know how to find Carly. If you don't, google.com. Right. It's right there. And we're going to have in the steps below the show, though, the action steps that are recommended that you might take. We'll have the resources listed on that page as well. And if I'm going to say something different today, if you're thinking like, man, they seem to talk about the same concepts over and over, it's time to get in the game. That means you're a visionary who's learned this stuff enough to come on our stage, be our guest. There's a button in the top right corner that says be our guest. Come share your vision, come bring a new dynamic to it. But if you're hearing the same things over and over and you're not taking the actions that align with that yet, then start taking those actions. We just want to, I think Carly's goal, my goal is just inspire you guys to take action and build your visions and make the most of this life. And that's what fills my cup. Carly, I'll let you end today. You be the one to see us off. Final words.
Yeah, definitely agreeing with that as well. And it's as you said, all those individuals that you shared, I've read all those books. And when it starts to come together and collaborate, it's just remembering we have this inside of us, and this is just a tool to guide others. So if it inspires you, do it as well. Yeah. So thank you for sharing the platform and helping to inspire people as well. And I do hope that it's given people some nuggets to help them get to the other side.
Absolutely. Visionaries, you heard it from Carly Pepin. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision.